Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 279. Today we are talking all about adventuring with our kids. Small adventures, big adventures, they all have a big impact no matter what you're doing. It's all about connecting with your kids, enjoying them, and finding the joy in the journey of learning alongside your kiddos in your homeschool and in your family life. It's going to be a great episode, so get ready. Before we begin, I just want a special shout out to CTC Math. Thank you as always for sponsoring this podcast. We appreciate you, and you will learn more about them later on in this episode. In the meantime, you can check them out at ctcmath.com. And now, let's get ready for today's episode. Pop those earbuds in, and let's get on with it. Hey there, I am so glad that you are here with me today. This is going to be a great episode because we are diving into something that I think is often overlooked in homeschooling, especially when we're raising neurodivergent kiddos, kids who are gifted, twice exceptional, maybe on the autism spectrum, maybe they have learning challenges or they're anxious. These kiddos usually thrive with support, structure, and predictability. And it's when things go off a little bit that they start to spiral or struggle. And we really want, as parents of those neurodivergent kiddos, to give them opportunities to be flexible and to break out of their rigidity and break out of their structure when it's safe, when they're home, so that we can help guide them to a more flexible life so they can be more resilient. We're talking today about adventure with our kids, adventure as a family, adventure in our homeschool. And I'm not talking about the mountain climbing, wild animal hunting, jungle exploring types of adventure, unless that's your jam. Like, more power to you if that's the kind of adventure you like. But what I'm really talking about is everyday, soul-nourishing, curiosity-fueled, memory-making adventure. Those small adventures that build resilience, that grow confidence, that help our differently wired kiddos believe in themselves. Small adventures that you can do from the comfort of your home, in your neighborhood, in your general area, that build your connection with one another and help grow those relationships so that our kids can be more confident and resilient as they go into their life. And if you're already feeling a little bit overwhelmed, hang in there, because adventures can be tiny, simple, and close to home. In fact, they can be in your home. You don't have to do anything big or elaborate in order to give your kids the adventures that they need in order to thrive and just be excited about learning and about being part of your family. In my books, The Homeschool Advantage and Raising Resilient Sons, I talk a lot about how connection, curiosity, and creativity shape our kids' growth. And adventure ties into all three of those things. We're going to dig in during this episode to how embracing the spirit of adventure in your homeschool and in your family life can help your kids thrive socially, emotionally, academically, and for the long haul. Okay, you ready to get started? Here we go. Adventure matters for a lot of reasons. And you've probably heard that phrase, adventure is out there, right? But here's the thing, adventure is not just out there, it's right here, waiting in your backyard, waiting in your kitchen, waiting in your local park, waiting in your library, waiting at co-op, waiting on a trip to the grocery store. It's wherever you are. Adventure is just being fully present in your life and finding the things that you can bring up to your kiddo and tie into whatever it is that's going on in your life. In my book, The Homeschool Advantage, I write about how learning doesn't have to look like school. In fact, it's even better if it looks like life. Life is naturally full of adventure when we're open to it. When we frame new experiences, big or small, as adventures, we signal to our kiddos that life is something to be explored. It's not something that we're just waiting to have happen to us. It's something that we get to take an active part in. It's okay not to know everything yet. Wonder, curiosity, and experimentation are a welcome part of life. In fact, learning for its own sake, adventuring for its own sake, finding out the whys and the hows and the wheres and the why nots in life is what makes life special. I want my kids to know that it's not about finding something to do just to pay the bills and living to work. Working is about giving you the option and the openness and the resources to be able to live. We are not about building a life so that we can work. We're about building our life so that we can live. And our work and the jobs that we do in the future, our passions, our goals are to help facilitate this great, well-rounded life. And it's important because adventure builds so many things in our kids. It builds confidence. Kids try new things. They see that they can do hard stuff. They understand that they can learn anything that they need to learn. They build self-esteem. They start to value their own ideas and their own strengths. And in the process of building that confidence and that self-esteem, they grow in their resilience. They're able to learn that failure, detours, and surprises are all part of the journey, and they're better off for those setbacks. They're better off when they learn and they grow and they move and explore and fall down and pick themselves back up. Adventure is its own reward and also gives us lots and lots of benefits and lots of positive things that add to our life. So there are social and emotional benefits that adventure brings. It helps our kids practice bravery in low-stake ways. I love that my kiddos who have anxiety or struggle in new situations have the opportunity to try new things within the safety of their family. They get to go try new co-ops or new classes or new experiences with their family and siblings and parents right beside them. Let's say you pack a picnic and go to a new park. For an anxious or an autistic child, that might be uncomfortable at first. But when you're there together, you give them the confidence to be able to know that their safety net is there, their safe place, their safe person is there. And so maybe they climb something new or try a new skill on a new playground, or maybe they push themselves out a little further and talk to another child or try a new food that you've brought along. These are all wins. We're helping our kids break out of their comfort levels and comfort zones and pushing themselves so that they can become and continue to become better versions of themselves. In Raising Resilient Sons, I talk about helping our kiddos face discomfort with support. When we model this through little adventures, we're showing them, hey, things are hard. New things especially are hard, but you don't have to face them alone. I'm here for you. I'm here with you, and you can do this. Adventure is also deeply connective. Think about the memories that your family has made that still come up during conversations. I'm betting that a lot of them happened during adventures, like on vacations or in the backyard or during a spontaneous dance party in the living room. I was just thinking the other day and talking to one of my kids about a trip that we took this past year. One of my good friends and a person who my kids know really well from different conferences and places that I've traveled and they've traveled with me, had a wedding vow renewal ceremony in Memphis, Tennessee at Graceland. And my friend and her husband, great people, one of my favorite couples, and a couple that my children love, invited us. And of course we went. Unfortunately, my husband wasn't able to get off work to come with us, but my 4 kids and I had a blast, and we had the time of our lives. We had 4 days packed into this road trip to drive down to Memphis and see Graceland. We toured Graceland one day. We had the vow renewal ceremony the next day, and my daughter sung at the ceremony, so she got to sing at Graceland. And then we had this amazing reception in the Classic Car Museum at Graceland. So we're there with all of Elvis's old cars. And then the next day we went to the big Bass Pro Shop and shopped around. And we went to the Peabody Hotel's Duck Walk. And then we met up with another friend of mine who lives just outside of Memphis, and went over to her house for dinner and played cards, and the kids had a blast. We had so much fun on the way back. We stopped at a Buc-ee's to experience Buc-ee's for the first time. Every single day was like a micro adventure in and of itself. In fact, one of the days, the day that we went to the Bass Pro Shop and the Peabody Hotel, was like 2 adventures rolled into one. And my kids still talk about that, and we joke about it, and we have this rich shared experience to fall back on. For neurodivergent kiddos who often can struggle with peer relationships or social situations, adventure gives them a way to bond without the pressure of having to make and keep friends or say the right thing in a situation. Because when you're traveling or when you're adventuring or when you're trying a new thing, it's always expected that there's going to be some growing pains with it. They get to be fully themselves in those shared experiences, and this builds trust and offers joy to our kids. All of my kids have found ways out of their anxieties or their worry through traveling, doing like overnight trips, or again, trying a new park or a new co-op situation or a new class. 2 of my children are trying archery for the first time this year and having a blast exploring that. That's an adventure we got a couple years ago. Actually, I bought it for my oldest, who was 19 at the time. He's 22 now. We have an axe throwing kit that we store in our shed and practice on targets made out of old stumps in the backyard. And going out in the backyard to throw axes at targets is a fun adventure. You're working on hand-eye coordination. There's a little challenge involved in it when you're trying to outscore the last person who threw. And you're building strength and trying a new sport. It's so much fun. And then if you really wanted to, you could tie it into some history, medieval history, or games that used to be played in historic times, and just find ways to do those things. Here's the thing about adventures like that, big and small. It ties you together as a family so much more closely that it naturally builds those social skills so that kids feel more comfortable using them outside of the family. And it builds those emotional skills because your kids know that you're there for them and you're trying new things alongside of them. Taking adventures with your kids and trying new things with your kiddos also build academic and executive function growth. We need to talk a little bit about the homeschooling brain stuff for a second here, because the emotional and the social things are great, but we also need to build our kids' skills. We need to build their brain power. We need to grow their executive function skills. We talk about this all the time. Oftentimes, our gifted, twice exceptional, neurodivergent kiddos struggle with executive function skills. They struggle to keep things organized. They struggle to plan, prioritize, get started on tasks, finish tasks, see them through. And so when we are building and weaving adventure into and throughout our learning, we start to activate multiple parts of our kiddo's brain. Real world learning is sticky. Kids remember what they do, not just what they're told. So when we learn and explore through adventure, it sticks in our kids' brains better. And so adventure encourages all sorts of skills that can translate to executive function skills, which then translates to academic skills. Things like planning and prioritizing. What should we bring on our trip to Graceland? What time should we leave in the morning if we think that we're going to probably make 2 or 3 stops and it takes this many hours to get there? Where should we stop along the way? What are some safe places? What's a good distance before having to stop for a bathroom or a dinner break? What should we bring? How do we figure out all the different things that we need to bring? If we're going on a nature hike, what do we need to bring for that? Do we want to bring like bug repellent? Do we want to bring bug boxes in case we find a cool specimen we want to look at? How about cameras or pocket microscopes? Do we want to bring our journal so we can sketch some of the things that we see? What should we wear? What's the weather like? There's all sorts of planning involved when we're taking adventures, big and small. But we also learn about flexibility, which is a huge executive function skill, being able to be flexible in light of things that don't go the way that you planned. Oh no, we got to the museum and it's closed because they had a water leak today. What do we do now? Is there somewhere else we can go? Should we just go home? Should we all break down crying? No, we need to figure out something else to do. Or I've used this example on the podcast before, going to an amusement park like Cedar Point, which is our amusement park that's closest to us. You get there and the ride you've been dying to ride is closed down. Should you forget it all and go home, or should you make the best of it and roll with the punches and go on other rides? When we go on adventures, things come up all the time, so we learn flexibility. We also learn to problem solve. Our baking project flopped. The thing that we were trying to cook didn't work out. We don't have the ingredient we thought we needed, or we thought we had. How do we fix this? It started raining in the middle of our hike. Now we're soaked and we don't have any clothes to change into for the drive home. What do? We need to learn to problem solve and be flexible and plan for all the things that could go wrong. An adventure allows us opportunities to do that. This is all executive function. It's practice with our executive function skills, but it's all wrapped up in fun. When our kids are immersed in something that they care about or they're excited about, their brains light up. Curiosity starts to drive learning. And when our kiddos feel ownership over their learning through their choice-filled adventures, they become more motivated, they become more engaged, and they're proud of the work that they've done. Again, facilitating that stickiness we were talking about when it comes to learning. Hey there. Okay, you've heard me talk about CTC Math for a long time, and I've been sharing testimonials from other people about it, but I want to share my own right now because it's been a while since I've talked about how we're using CTC Math. CTC is an amazing sponsor. They support our work here at the podcast. They actually sponsor a lot of different homeschool businesses and magazines and events because they're so committed to making sure that the homeschool resources you have at your fingertips are available to you, that you have access to what you need when you need it. I love CTC Math for that part of who they are, but I also love CTC Math as a customer. I have been a paying customer for years and years. My kids are using it in very different ways, and this is what I want to talk about. I've talked before about its adaptability, but let's talk about this. I'm 16 years into homeschooling. This is my 16th year, and our kids are using it very differently. I've got one kiddo who's very advanced in math. That kiddo is a grade level and a half ahead, and I have their level set to mastery at 90%, meaning they have to get 90% or above to move on to the next set of math problems because that child doesn't have to speed through it. They're already a year and a half ahead. And so I want them, if they're going to continue to accelerate, I want them to accelerate with deep understanding. My other kiddo who's currently using it is right on grade level, maybe a couple lessons behind. And so that kiddo's mastery is set at 80% because I don't need that kiddo to understand every single section and get every single problem right. I need that kiddo to understand the big picture of the concepts, get at least a B's level of work done so that they can move on to the next level, because that particular kiddo is probably not going into a mathy career, but they need the basic understanding. CTC allows the flexibility to do that. If you've got a kiddo, say in late elementary school, who is absolutely brilliant in math and can skip ahead to some high school level math, your subscription includes all the way up to calculus. You don't have to wait. You don't have to buy multiple levels of programs. If you've got a kiddo who you hit a snag and you realize, oh my gosh, we missed that section when we were learning third grade math and now we've got to go back to do it. You don't have to go out and buy a third grade math workbook. You just go to the section in the third grade math program level and have your kiddo do that. How flexible is that? You have every level from kindergarten all the way to calculus at your fingertips for a very affordable price. Check out ctcmath.com. If you go over to the show notes and you click on the link, it will give you whatever the current discount or special they're offering Raising Lifelong Learners listeners, and you can check that out and take advantage of that. I so appreciate CTC. I know you're going to love it. And if you don't, they have a money back guarantee. So you really do have nothing to lose. If you have any questions about CTC, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to answer those questions. All right, let's get back to today's episode. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit. There are long-term impacts and benefits to adventuring with our kids when they're young and even when they're older. Kids who grow up in homes that value exploration learn something powerful. They learn, I am capable. I can handle the unknown. I can try. I can fail. I can adjust. I can try again. That mindset is gold. In the Homeschool Advantage, I wrote about raising lifelong learners, and a key part of that is teaching kids to be curious risk takers. Not reckless, but willing to stretch out a little bit, to ask big questions, to go off the beaten path sometimes. And when we allow our kids these opportunities, we teach them to do that. We teach them that things are not always what they seem, and a little adventure can make things more interesting. These are the qualities that make a great adventure, a thoughtful friend, a resilient adult, a great performer, an innovator, a leader, an entrepreneur. So while it might feel sometimes like a simple day trip or a backyard experiment, what you're really doing is teaching your kids to face life with courage, try new things, experiment, explore, and just find joy in them and see what's around them. So let's get practical. How do we bring adventure into our days and our homeschools without adding more and more? What does it look like in real life? Okay, we could do big adventures. Big adventures include things like visiting a new city, going on a weekend trip, doing what I talk about in the Homeschool Advantage, and taking surprise rides. Surprise rides are simply throwing your kids in the car and saying, okay, surprise, we're going to go on an adventure today. We're going on a surprise ride, and not telling them what you're doing till you get there. We've done surprise rides that are teeny tiny, like going out for donuts or getting ice cream for dinner or going to a park or going for a hike or a walk. And we've done big surprise rides like going to an indoor water park for an overnight or a weekend away or a big game or a play. So you can do big adventures like surprise rides. You could visit a new city or a new museum. You can take a spontaneous road trip. You can go on a family mission to find the best ice cream in your county and try a bunch of ice cream places on the way. You can start a nature journal and explore new trails throughout the week. You can join our Family Connection Challenge in June and try all sorts of things yourself by going to the show notes for this episode and finding the link about the Family Connection Challenge and signing up. We are going to be all about connection and growing together. And the Learners Lab is going to be a place where we're going to talk about those adventures and really focus in on why it's so important as a family. But even if you're not a member of the Learners Lab, you can still join the Family Connection Challenge by going to the link in the show notes and signing up. You can also do small adventures, trying like a mystery dinner with different foods from different cultures or different countries. You can do homeschool outside for the day or stargaze and learn about constellations. You can do a spontaneous science experiment or an art project. Adventure doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be complicated. And honestly, the smaller adventures often matter more, especially when you follow your child's lead. Maybe try to plan your adventures around different things your different kids are interested in. Today, as I'm recording this, I had to drop one of my kids off at an event that they were doing, and I asked one of my other kids, to come along with me because this kiddo has been really interested in learning how to crochet lately. And I said, why don't we go drop your sibling off and then we can go to the store and get you some new yarn and you can plan a project. And that was so fun. It was just a quick little adventure, and she came home with a pack of gum, a scented candle, and a bunch of yarn. It really doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be super crazy. It just needs to be something that your kiddos are going to appreciate. If your hyper-focused kid is obsessed with bugs, make it an adventure to catalog all the insects in your backyard. If one of your kiddos likes trains, find a railroad museum or set up a train-themed unit study. Or do what I used to do with my oldest when he was itty bitty and go sit near the tracks and watch the trains go by, bring some snacks and a lunch. Let their interests fuel your journey, and you'll both find more joy along the way. So here's the takeaway I want you to have for today's episode of the podcast. I want you to remember that adventure builds confidence, it deepens connection, and it helps our kiddos, especially our neurodivergent kids, grow into brave, strong, capable human beings. Whether you climb a mountain or build a pillow fort, what matters is that you show up with curiosity, joy, and a willingness to try something new together. If you're looking for simple ways to add adventure to your homeschool, I've got you covered. You can grab a free download at my site that was created just specifically for this episode. It's called 100 Simple Adventures for Your Homeschool. And it's over in our show notes, linked in there. You can go over, pop your email address in, and it'll send it right to your inbox. You can also sign up for our Family Connection Challenge for next month over on the show notes too. It's just raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast. Remember, inside the Learners Lab next month, we are doing a Family Connection Challenge, and you can sign up for that whether you're a member or not. Members, if you're listening to this episode, you're going to get some extra fun in there. We're going to have some prizes and some places where you can share the adventures and the connection that you're doing with your kids. For those of you who are just joining along the challenge and aren't ready to become members yet, you'll still have plenty of cool opportunities and some prizes along the way too. So I still encourage you to sign up. But it's a great month if you've been thinking about joining the lab or checking us out. It's a great month to give it a try because we're going to have so much fun celebrating June and the beginning of summer together. All right. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Remember, adventures all around. You just have to say yes to the journey. There are lots of resources for you over on the show notes for this episode to capitalize on this idea of adventuring with your kids. There are also links to my books in case you want some more ideas, and some other books from friends that have written about adventuring with your kids. So you can check those out too. There's also a link to check out our sponsor, CTC Math. I love them. I am so appreciative of CTC Math, and I encourage you to check them out if you're looking for a great math program. We are going to be back here same time, same place next week with another great episode. Don't forget, if you've got an idea for an episode or a guest that you want to suggest, you can go leave me a voicemail or send me a message over on the show notes page. There's a link to our contact form, which goes straight to my inbox, and also a link to a voicemail widget where you can leave me a voicemail. All right, I will talk to you soon. I'm so excited to hear all about the adventures that you're having with your kids. Don't forget to share with me. I can't wait to hear about them. Have a great week. Enjoy your kids. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.